Dr. Minakshi Pradeep Atre from India. I have done my PhD in signal processing. I'll be talking about the topic impulse response of an acoustic guitar. I hope I am audible and visible. Am I? Okay. So understanding the topic, I would like to discuss four phases of the mathematical modeling of acoustic guitar. Very first is mathematical model. Second is impulse response discussion. The third is how to apply the impulse response theory to other fields of biomedical sciences, and then how signal processing relates deep learning. To simply discuss the mathematical model or the concept mathematical model, a simple way to look at the mathematical model is the example of this storage. So if we imagine that we want to store the grain in this area or the storage house, what we would like to do is nothing but just simulate this roof as the cone structure and this base as the cuboid structure, so that we can calculate the area of the storage house and we can store the grain. So this is simply the mathematical model. Then what is an impulse response? So impulse response is the output of the system. So if we see input is applied to the system and we get some output. So to mathematically represent it, x of t is given to a system which is represented by h of t, and we get the output y of t. So system behavior is modeled as h of t. And now in this graphical representation, we can very well see the impulse is nothing but a pulse, a single pulse that is occurring at time t is equal to 0. So what is impulse? It shocks the system suddenly, and what we get is nothing but response of the system. So once we understand two basic terms of mathematical model and impulse response of this acoustic guitar, let's see why impulse response is so important. So speech is the convolved signal, right? So what is convolution or what is convolved signal? Right now you all are observing me, right? So I'm talking to you and you can see the speech coming from my mouth. So whatever signal that whatever speech I am delivering right now, it's the convolution. So the excitation signal will be the air which is passing through the mouth and the vocal tract. So it's the convolution of the excitation signal and the vocal tract. So speech is convolved signal. Now imagine you are looking in the sky and you observe a plane passing through the sky, right? So capturing an object in the scene is also convolution. So convolution is very important phenomenon in the human brain that is happening every now and then. The third aspect of understanding the convolution is music is also the convolution of the excitation signal and the impulse response of the music instrument. Then why is it important? Because we can preserve the musical instruments which are on the verge of obsolescence. So that's why the impulse response is very important. We can mimic the people, we can mimic the bird, we can mimic the animals. That is possible all because we can change the vocal tract response of our system. Now to understand the impulse response,
Dr. Minakshi, sorry,
yes.
your slides aren't moving.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
fine. So I'll keep in non-presentation mode so that it will be changing. Is this okay? Yeah, okay. So to understand the
Yes,
impulse response, yes, okay, thank you. So to understand the impulse response with reference to the acoustic guitar, let's understand that this person is playing the guitar with his hand
yes,
and there is a plectrum. Yes, there is a plectrum over here. So he's playing the guitar with the plectrum. So the hand is generating the excitation signal and this guitar body is producing the impulse response. So the excitation signal of this hand and the guitar body response, which is known as impulse response, will be convolved to produce the music note, right? So this is the language of impulse response. Now, the structure of an acoustic guitar. For that, I would like to check whether, yes, I hope this is visible. So this is an acoustic guitar, right? So this acoustic guitar will have these 6 strings over here, you can see. So there are 6 strings and there are 21 frets. So frets are these small, I can show you. These are the small metallic structures on the guitar neck which are called as frets. So there will be 21 frets available on the guitar, and this is the guitar body. So there will be two styles of playing this guitar. One is with the help of this plectrum, which is called as picked note, and when I play the guitar with the help of this finger, then it will be called as finger plucked guitar notes. So this is going to generate the two style music notes, right? So this is the introduction of the guitar note. Now, once we understand the guitar structure, we can see where the guitar lies in the family of string instruments. As we know, there are different families, string instruments, wind instruments like the flute, and the percussion instruments like tabla. So in string instruments category, we have guitar over here, which lies under the plucked note category. Now, just now I showed you guitar, and with the help of plectrum, I plucked the notes. I generated the notes. So there are other categories like bowed note, where bowed notes, where we have this violin and we have a bow with the help of which we just put pressure on the strings and the notes will be generated. So here we have guitar, which is lying under the string instrument category, and to be specific, the plucked notes category. Now, when we talk about the database that is generated for this research work, it's the collection of guitar notes based on two styles, plucking style by finger and by plectrum. So there will be finger plucked notes and the plectrum plucked notes, and we will have plucking expression. That means whether the naive person has played the guitar or the expert person has played the guitar. Now to generate, see, this is the depiction of the playing styles of the people. So here we have, with the help of this finger, and with the help of this finger we are generating the notes, and with the help of the spectrum which is shown over here, we have generated the notes. So database that we have generated is like, we have 21 frets and 6 strings. So 21 into 6 will give us 126 notes, and 126 notes by naive and expert, by finger and plectrum. So we will have total 504 music notes generated for this research work. And out of that, we have considered 480 music notes, because 20th note, 21st note, we did not consider, which is very close to the guitar body, or rather guitar hole. So this data set is published on the Elsevier Mendeley repository. So we can very well make use of it, and those who are interested can download these music notes for the further experimentation. Now, string modeling of this acoustic guitar. So string is nothing but this string that I told you. So this is about the generation of the music note by using the string modeling. So Pythagoras method, or the rule of 18, is one way to generate the guitar notes. And then we can validate the frequencies of the music notes with the help of linear mass density method, that is LMD method. And we can very well use autocorrelation method to verify or validate the frequencies generated by both of these methods. So this is the table which is generating, or which is giving us all the frequency ranges from 82 Hertz to 329 Hertz. So string 1 to string 6 are named as E to E. So E, B, G, D, A, E. This is, now this is the real work. So here you can see, I mean, we have the relation between the two frets. So as I told you, these are the two frets and these are the two strings. So the mathematical relationship of the frequencies between these two strings and these two frets is nothing but 1.05. So here you can see these two frets and these two strings. So consecutive strings and consecutive frets, definitely they will have some mathematical relation. Our aim for the research was to check whether the impulse response of this guitar body follows this relation or not. So let us see further. So we have uh, calculated all the frequencies for these music notes, starting from string 1 to string 6 and all the notes. These are the sample frequencies because we carried out the frequency calculations from fret number 1 to 20. But here I have shown only up to 6. The complete table is available. And then we have started validating the relation, mathematical relation of these frequencies. Now here also you can see that we have verified the mathematical calculation by using the autocorrelation method. Autocorrelation is mathematical approach by checking the musical note frequencies by comparing with itself. So suppose we have fret 1 string 1 note, we check this note with itself and calculate the frequency. So if they are same, the pitch will be high, or rather the peak will be high. So this is the verification of autocorrelation. Now, the graphic representation of the music note includes the time domain graph and the frequency domain graph. This is time domain graph. So the shape of the music note shows us which note is being played. So string 1, fret 1 note is played. So the shape is very important aspect in case of music notes. So just like in ECG, that is electrocardiograph, we see the PQRS curve. Same way we have the music note curve as well. So by looking at the curve, we can see whether this is the correct note or no. And then in the second graph, we have this frequency representation of the music note. Same music note, here we have represented with the help of the frequency component. And one point, important point I would like to highlight over here, we always perceive the music or the speech by the frequencies, right? The curve of the music note or curve of the speech that indicates the loudness or the amplitude. So we always perceive by the frequencies, high pitch, low pitch. We all use these terms, right? So we perceive by the frequencies. Very important aspect. And then mathematical model for the music note is represented with the help of sines and cosines. Typical mathematical language like sines and cosines. So we have these important mathematical expression for all the music note frequencies. So this is the main note, and then these are the harmonics, that means the multiples of this music note. So this consists of the music note. Now impulse response modeling basically consists of two parts. First one is impulse response calculation and the second is excitation signal calculation. Now here I would like to again show you the guitar over here, right? So let me show this guitar. Now for what I did is nothing but I calculate the body response, that means complete body response, which is known as impulse response. That I calculated separately, and then I calculated this excitation signal separately, like this one. So this excitation signal and this body response, if I am able to separate them, then impulse response is very important, which will help me to preserve the guitar notes. Even if the guitar is no more existing or that particular musical instrument is no more existing, I would be able to preserve it. So I have separated this by using adaptive cepstral domain windowing method. So this is a patented method that we used in the separation of excitation signal and the impulse response of guitar. So we took FFT, that is fast Fourier transform of the given music signal. Then we took log of that, that is logarithmic of the fast Fourier transform values. Then we take inverse Fourier transform and we enter into the cepstral domain, cepstral window domain, and then we again take fast Fourier transform, then anti-logarithmic of those values, and finally we use inverse fast Fourier transform to get the synthesized note. So here in this cepstral window stage, we would separate the impulse response and we will preserve that over here. Okay. Now this is the depiction of the string 1 fret 20 impulse response, and this is the impulse response of string 1 fret 1. So this is fret 20, this is fret 1, and the samples considered are 70 and 60. So this is not important at this point of time, but yes, later on when we go for the close original note, then we need to give attention to the number of samples as well. Now this is the excitation signal that we separated. So if you see, this is the excitation signal with its frequency to be 349.9 hertz, and this is the original note and the excitation signal. So excitation signal which is separated from the impulse response also possesses the same frequency. So we have 349.9 and we have 349.9. So exactly the same frequency by the excitation signal. And then we calculate the impulse response. Look at this impulse response. They all fall in line with each other. What does this mean? We say that the impulse response of the guitar body, I'll show the guitar again. So impulse response of this guitar body is constant. Rather, once we fetch this, we can definitely give the shift. You can see the diagram over here. We can definitely give the shift to this guitar body response or impulse response, and you will see all these peaks accompanying the excitation signal. So we can definitely generate, these are the fret 20, fret 1 to fret 20 impulse responses. So these are the impulse response train pulses which are available for the guitar, and this is for the string one. Now this is the physical modeling of this guitar, or this is the graphical user interface, that is GUI for the system that we made. So we can load the file, any file. We can also take the speech file, but we did research on the music note. So music note will be loaded, and then we separate excitation signal and body response or impulse response, and then this impulse response will be taken and shifted and will be synthesized again to get the original response. So we can definitely see the body response can be separated for that music note. And then we verified our results for say all the 20 frets, but here for example I have shown open string, fret 1, fret 2 up to fret 6, and then finger plucking and plectrum plucking. And these are the correlation coefficients. So 0.94 correlation coefficient must be called, or is called as good coefficient when it is close to 1. So we have 0.95, that's very good correlation coefficient for the synthesized notes. So we are trying to establish the relation between the original note and the synthesized note. So that synthesis, that is with the help of the impulse response, is done on the I mean that synthesis is done to help us to identify the impulse responses. Now I'll just play the synthesized. Okay, okay, I just changed the path. Okay, fine. I'll just do it. Fine. So I'll play later. So the octave relationship, that is 2 raised to n, and that is 2 raised to n divided by 12, that octave relationship is being followed by all the music notes. So fret 12 to fret 18, the sample values are shown over here. So we are expecting this ratio to be 1.05, and we can see it's very close. So 1.06, 1.04, 1.04, 1.09. So likewise we have calculated for all the strings, and this is the extensive experimental research that we have done to establish the relationship between the impulse responses. And this is the music note which is generated or which is synthesized. This is the string one, fret 19, and this is finger plucked music note. So here again, I cannot play because I just changed the path right now, so I'm not able to play. Okay, good. I have added that. Yes. So this is the original note, and we can see this is the synthesized note. So there is hardly any difference between the original note and the synthesized note. So this is what we demonstrated. Now this is the validation of generalized model. We call this model to be generalized because we can take the impulse response of any single note and we can generate all other notes. That is called a generalization. So I am not storing the impulse response of all the music notes. I am storing the impulse response of single music note, and that is going to help me to generate all possible music notes for that particular guitar. And this is the block schematic again, the patented work that we have done. So This is the synthesized music note, which is generated by using a single body response. And the conclusion that an impulse response of the fret 20 is used as the reference for synthesis or generation of impulse response for other frets. As I told you, I'm using only single impulse response. I'm not storing all the impulse responses. And this fret 20 impulse response is going to help me to generate all the music notes. And what we achieved? Yes, we could achieve the synthesized music notes. And even though in some countries there are some really rare music instruments, we can definitely store them. Even in India, Lata Mangeshkar is the famous singer, and we can definitely, if we are able to find out the impulse response, definitely we can restore her voice. So that's the use of the impulse response, or that's the power of impulse response in the field of signal processing. Now, these are the steps for the modeling that we followed. So I'll just skip this because I would like to highlight the impulse response and its importance in the signal processing. I told you earlier, impulse is a single pulse, right? So, an impulse response, we can see this is the depiction. So you poke the snake, and what comes back to you is nothing but the impulse response. Now, this is the radar system where we can send the impulse, and if impulse is back, then the target will be detected. That's the application area in the radar system. And here we can see the ECG, that is electrocardiograph, and this signal is again in the form of impulses. And if it is matched with the original or normal ECG, correlation will be very high. And if it is abnormal, definitely there will be changes and correlation value drops. So this is again the impulse in the form of ECG, or rather ECG signal in the form of impulse response. And these are I mean, this is how we actually resurrect the patient, and that is again giving an impulse to the chest. So that is again the importance of impulse response. So here I have highlighted again, so you can see the impulses over here. And this is the experimental setup. I have taken the reference of this journal paper where we are making use of the signals in the field of biomedical sciences. So this impulse response is going to help us a lot. So impulse response and convolution are really very important concepts in the field of biomedical sciences as well. So input given to the system, output, and then this system is characterized by the impulse response. Any system, take the heart system is characterized by ECG signal, that is electrocardiograph signal. And to relate the impulse and impulse response in signal processing to biomedical, impulse is nothing but stimulus that we give to. With the help of those I showed you, know, with the help of these two, we just give the resurrection, or rather we try to save the patient. So that's the stimulus given to the heart, and impulse response is nothing but the reflex action. So it's the same language, but it's the mathematical modeling of the biomedical signal or biomedical system. So stimulus gives reflex action, impulse gives impulse response. And let me highlight the last slide, that is convolution and deep learning, that is machine learning. So we all know you are all great doctors from the neuroscience field. So I would like to highlight just the connection between the human brain and the neural network that we are working in. So this neural network is represented with the help of the small cells. So these are called as neurons. So we have these hidden layers, and we go on increasing these layers so that we can identify the face of a person. You might have come across the face detection signal, biometric systems which are available at the labs, maybe at the companies. All these is done with the help of the convolutional neural network, that is CNN, right? And I told you convolution is nothing but sensing the object. So that's the power of convolution. So this is the network of the neurons, and if we see, this is the huge network of artificial neural network, or ANN, and this convolution is going to help us to extract different features. So we go on adding the convolution layers in between over here. say this is the convolution layer 1, convolution layer 2, convolution layer 3. All these layers are going to sense the features of that object, and that's going to help us identify the malfunction in a particular biomedical image, or maybe the face recognition. All application areas, they are using convolutional neural network, which is typically known as deep learning, So that's about the connection between the neural network and the signal processing and my area of work. So that's all for today's session, and I would like to highlight my publications, which are typically with the Elsevier and Springer, and we have a patent for our method that we have used, and we are really eager to apply this in the biomedical signal. So this is the patent number that I have filed in India, and I am really curious to see if I get connected with one of the scientists and I can work, because it's a really upcoming field, that is deep learning in the field of biomedical sciences. That's all, and thank you so much. If there are any queries, I would like to take the queries. Thank you so much.